these numbers don't make sense inside my brain, and that growth doesn't make sense inside my brain. Some of the investments that we'll talk about and that we talked about last week don't make sense as a niche sport. I think there's an incredible opportunity, and it sounds like so does Seth, on this sport growing, but the infrastructure needs to catch up. And so we're seeing that now, or we're starting to see that now. And that's so fun to talk about from my perspective or our perspective, because we love this sport so much. I don't see it as a niche.
Maybe not niche, but maybe just opportunity that people aren't seeing or out there yet.
100%.
Well, welcome to episode 4 of the Threshold podcast. Garrett, great to see you again.
Good to see you as well, brother.
You doing well?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here.
I am excited as well. And we are recording this on a Sunday, an Easter Sunday, unusual for us. So it is the 5th of April. And we're excited to be back. I think that the last couple episodes have been going great. And in the meantime, I haven't seen you in about a week and a half now. So how you been?
Biggest bummer of this week is not being able to do the simulation that we talked about. And we'll get into a little bit about that. I'm doing well. I know we talked last time and I was dealing with a little bit of a calf, shin, just some lower extremity on the right side, and took a couple days and did some cross training, rode the bike, a lot of mobility, and then got out to New Orleans and was just itching to run. Went to spring break New Orleans, which underrated. Got a lot of questions about why New Orleans. It's a fun place. It's a fun place even for families if you stay in the right places. But finally got to start running in that city and just having some really cool memories of running down St. Charles, running down the Mississippi in Gretna, which is right next to New Orleans, and then figuring out how to run in the city. I ran down one of their main roads, and your head has to be on a swivel, and leg felt really, really good, so I'm feeling good.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
How about you, man?
We've been hanging in there, but before I jump on that, we were planning on doing simulation, and I had a buddy that jumped out on the long run with me, and we went out for a run, and our episode came out Monday, and he went out for a run a couple days later. Shout out Drake out there. I know he listens. Drake. And he's listening to the episode, and he said, "Garrett missing that simulation run, man. We got to get him back." Oh, yeah. He was looking for you out there.
Now I want to run the simulation run with you, Drake. Yeah. So hopefully he can join us.
But no, I've been, we've been okay. I think, I don't know. I wouldn't say okay. I'll be honest with you. I've been having some hard times here the last week. And I don't want to, we're a running based podcast, but I think it's important to, we talk about the everyday runner, the balanced runner, and what goes on in life, and life happens, and life kind of really hit me hard here the last week since we last talked. We got some pretty personal news. I'm sure there'll be a time and place that, I might share and get a little bit deeper into what's going on in my life here, but everything's going to be okay. And I think where I'm coming from is I've grown up just always saying that I'm okay, and always saying where, it's fine, no big deal, and just shoving emotions and feelings and everything under the carpet. And as I've gotten older and as I've grown, I've learned that it's okay to say you're not okay, especially as a male. That's hard to do. It's really hard to say you're not okay. And I have not been okay the last few weeks. And I was really beating myself up just with the news in my life, and then my training as well too. We're getting really close to our race here. I looked at my training program, and it was peak week for both of us there. And I just didn't have a good mental capacity to get out the door. And I was really having a hard time to put the shoes on. And I know we go back, and some people might say, well, reference your first episode where you talk about getting the shoes on and staring at them for a long time, and once you get out the door. And I'm like, I didn't think that I would be in a point in my life where I was like, I just didn't have it in me, but I just didn't have the mental capacity to do that. And I think that's okay to say. And I just took this week as a complete reset, a mental reset. And, we'll be ready to go here in the weeks coming. But I've had a lot of support from my friends, my family, my spouse, and she's going through the same stuff as well too. But we have a good community out there, and I feel supported. And, just excited to be here talking again tonight.
It's so nice to be here talking tonight. And I appreciate you opening up too, because that's not easy. And we talk about this podcast being for the everyday runner, a purpose-driven runner, and life inevitably will get in the way of your training, get in the way of some of the things you have, or maybe not even get in the way. It will bring things to you that you have to grow through. And it's the same thing I said to you when we were texting, yesterday, is you'll take this and you'll put it into your purpose for running, and it'll only make you stronger. I have no doubt about it. And I'm just glad to be here with you, man. Truly.
I really do appreciate it. And you sent me a message and you said that, there'll be a better purpose that comes of this. And I don't remember your exact verbiage, but you sent me a message and it really meant a lot to me. And I have a notes app on my phone, and I have a listing of mantras that I put into my notes app, and I'm actually going to take those and put them on note cards and have them during the race. And so when things get hard, I can just grab one, pull one, and read it, and hopefully it snaps me out of whatever funk I might be in for that loop or hour. And you had sparked something in that message, and I went straight to my notes app and I put some stuff down, and I put that into my mantra listing. So when times get hard during the race, I have a few other things added in there that I can really lean on. So that goes on again too, where you don't know what you might say or what you might feel or reflect to anyone out there, and it provides them an opportunity to maybe learn something or take something in a different way. And hopefully by me sharing this, that someone listening out there knows that it's okay to say you're not okay sometimes, and give yourself a break too if you are training and running for this stuff, that you don't have to be so hard and strenuous on yourself, and it's okay to take a week, take a few days, and take some time to reset.
I love it, man. And it's check your body at the door, it's check your mentals at the door, and there's just some times where we have to be the biggest, take the biggest step that a professional could take and say, I'm going to rest this one and
Yeah,
make sure everything's straight.
100%.
So, but I mean, that being said, we have a big episode today, and we're doing something that we haven't really done before, which is break down this really robust, awesome article and that was written on trail running, a case for trail running, not only the sport of trail running, but also the business or the economy and the culture of trail running, which I'm really excited about.
I'm too. And I think that it provides us an opportunity to share like our love for trail running, our perspectives on where trail running is and where it could be going. And so the article is like very analytical, very like gives good fine point tuned in details. And we were reading this and I said, this might be an opportunity. And you jumped in. You're like, dude, there's like a lot to talk about here. And we're like, why don't we just jump on a pod and like, let's discuss this and provide great color. And I just like shout out because it's Seth Lareau and he's on the Trailwave Substack. So if you want to like check this actual article out that we're reading in live time, go on Substack. He's under the trail waves, and it's a great, great article. I think that we're going to have a lot of fun conversation tonight.
100% we are. Shout out to Seth. Thank you for writing this. Thank you for taking time to really think about this thing that we love. And it's an interesting angle because Seth isn't just saying his title is the investment case for trail running. If you were a founder or you were an investor, how would you talk to potential people that want to buy into the sport of trail running?
Yeah, you mean you're right there. Like, how do you buy into trail running? Because when you talk, like, if you see someone walking on the street or someone running, you just say the word running, they're immediately going to start resorting to marathons or half marathons, 10Ks, 5Ks, whatever happens on the pavement. Even like me, like before I started getting into running, I didn't realize there was this whole world that just ran through the woods or ran through the deserts and ran overnight and ran for days. I didn't know that this community existed. And so I'm glad that there's someone out there that's saying like, hey, let's shine some light on this and let's break it down, open up the curtains and see what we can find in this.
Mm. So how do we want to start this? Because I think the first part that's really important is trail running as an industry. What does that look like? How many runners are finishing trail races currently, and how does that compare to maybe another big big running ecosystem?
Well, I think if you basically draw, I think he puts great three circles on there, right? And he takes running as a whole, and then you have your subcategory inside that, which is like trail running, right? And if we look at trail running year end over year end, I want to say last year was 150,000 plus finishers that finished a ultra marathon distance. So he specifically used the word ultra marathon distance. So he's eliminating any of the trail stuff that happened under a 31-mile distance. So you have 150,000 people that are running over 31 miles and ultra marathon, trail marathon, whatever you want to call it. And so that is a continuous growth year in over year in. Take COVID out of the mix. But if you take COVID out of there and you start from late 2010s to where we are today, it's a continuous growth. So this community, this sport, quote unquote sport, because I think it should be called a sport, is not going anywhere, and we're seeing growth, and it's here to stay. Would you agree?
We talked about last week, even athletes from the paved running community crossing over to trail races. So 100% it's growing. It's interesting. He said 8% growth
Mm-hmm.
last year. We talk about that 150,000 number. I'm going to take us off on a different tangent for just 1 second. While that's a big number, if you are one of those 150,000 trail ultra runner finishers, congrats to you, because still when we talk about it in as a business or as a kind of industry, it's a big number. It's also a very small number compared to all the people out there. So props to you.
Little drop in the bucket, because what was I'm going to get this wrong, but it was either the Tokyo Marathon or it was one of the world major marathons that has like 50,000 starters. That's a third of who runs an ultra marathon in a calendar year. Crazy.
It's crazy.
Crazy. But that also shows, which I'm sure we'll get into, size of start fields, size of permittings, like what you're allowed to do with an ultra marathon race. And it's a fun sport, but if you're in, you're in. And if you're like curious, maybe start dipping your toes in the water, because there's some opportunity there.
Oh,
right?
it's so cool to think about. But I will agree with you in that, you can put pavement anywhere. You could put down a marathon anywhere. Some of the races that we'll mention in this podcast that we have mentioned are just gems, and only Mother Nature, only God can create that particular race, and it probably can't be emulated, which is a really great thing. But also it's probably a reason why some of this stuff maybe hasn't exactly caught up to the size that we're seeing when that 150,000 finisher number.
For sure. And I think that you tell me what you think here, but he talks about how he views trail running as, or he doesn't specifically, but larger brands out there view this as a quote unquote niche sport. Do you think that trail running is a niche sport?
I don't think you can call it a niche sport. I think a niche sport, and these numbers don't make sense inside my brain, and that growth doesn't make sense inside my brain. Some of the investments that we'll talk about and that we talked about last week don't make sense as a niche sport. I think there's an incredible opportunity, and it sounds like so does Seth, on this sport growing, but the infrastructure needs to catch up. And so we're seeing that now, or we're starting to see that now. And that's so fun to talk about from my perspective or our perspective, because we love this sport so much. I don't see it as a niche.
It's maybe not niche, but maybe just opportunity that people aren't seeing or out there yet.
100%.
Yeah, because it's growing year in and year out. And you have a lot of people that are like ultra committed to coming back and continuously doing these things. And we talk about community a lot, but in essence, 150,000 people is just one giant community that's just getting larger year in and year in and year in. So opportunities there.
Opportunities there. So Seth's problem that he says, the core problem when he's talking to these investors through his article, is it is still viewed as a niche sport by some. It's growing 8% annually, and that there might be a perception between that growth and actually what's happening within the sport in terms of coverage and all of these different things that we'll get into. So I feel like opportunity is definitely there.
Mm-hmm. A lot of opportunity. And it's not just opportunity with, I think it's opportunity across the board. It's opportunity with the runners. It's opportunity with the brands. It's opportunity with the RDs and the race directors. So like, I know I just mentioned brands, but I think there's opportunity for everyone there. I think that there's a need for this. There's people that are wanting more of this. I can tell you specifically, I want more of this. I'd love to see this continuously grow, like the media side of things, the sport, the racing, the everything that's out there. Like, it's fun to watch this stuff. Like, I love to go home, kick my feet up, throw on the YouTube and watch some of these running documentaries. So it's not just with brands. I think that there as a whole, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Shout out to all the creators on YouTube that are making these documentaries, because I think it is definitely pushing the sport forward in a real way. And it is incredibly engaging to watch them. We just need probably more real-time coverage of the sport, which will be a challenge. It's not on a court. It's not in a stadium. You can't get the perfect camera angle. Some of these things are very remote.
But there are some people out there that are trying to drive that ship to get it going, right? UTMB is making a decent effort of putting some streaming out there, right? They're providing live coverage of their race from start to finish, and they typically are just trying to provide some good video format of live video format of the people in the front of the race. And then you see race companies like Air Viper Running out west, they're putting together some really great live feed through Mountain Outpost with commentary, finish line stuff, aid stations. So it can come, it will work. But again, it's the financials. Like that's a lot of money to put something together. It's a lot of infrastructure on these trail races. So
So really good point.
yeah,
Financials. And so he talks about the problem. He also talks about the opportunity, which is a $50 billion potential economy within running, right?
huge.
Um, and talks about what does that actually look like? What are the market segments within this? Talks about gear and apparel,
Mhm.
leaves out shoes. Shoes feel like he felt as though shoes were potentially already tagged from certain big brands that
Yeah.
have a foothold on that. But all the other gear that we go through, if you think about a trail runner, they're going through gear at a fast pace if they're running the miles that we're running, and that gear has to be turned over sometimes every other month, every
Mhm.
couple months. And so how does that play into this kind of total opportunity that he's talking about?
Well, I think that when you talk opportunity and you talk like these brands and you're saying when you're buying stuff so consistently, there's products out there that I might go look at that are sold out all the time, right? Because there's such a high demand for them that you can never grab them off the shelves. And if you're not sitting there waiting for the computer to hit send or enter, you're missing out. And so I think there's opportunity for other companies or even new startups to jump in and say, hey, maybe I'm not, no need to copycat, but if there's some area or segment that they think that can provide some added benefit to people out there to consume something, they should jump on that, right? Because there's a chance there to fill that market in. I Same thing, like we know we talked about shoes but you see like Nike and you see Brooks and you see all the like Nike has their ACG division. You see Brooks making a trails. And so all of these companies are realizing that hey, there is a market for the trail world as well too. It's like let me just branch off from our road shoes, let me branch off from our daily runners and let me start having a trail line on there. And all these big name brands are starting to do that as well too. So I know he doesn't touch on shoes, but I think that's important to note.
It's a really good
Mhm.
point. I was in Under Armour recently and talking to them about their selection, and we got talking. I said I was a trail runner. He said that is something that Under Armour's actively working on
Yeah.
right now because they see the potential. So when you talk about Nike and then you talk about Brooks and you talk about Under Armour, if these brands, big brands with great reputations, can come on board and put something out there that is a trail line, that's only going to push that piece of gear forward. But
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of opportunity for startups to potentially come in there as well.
And you're seeing that, like, if we just keep talking about shoes, like, when you think of trail running, you think of Hoka, you think of Nike, you think of Adidas or the Airtex line, but now you're seeing all of a sudden, you're seeing Mountain to Coast pop up, and they're a new one that have all of a sudden just blew up over here the last few years. You're hearing Norda Running, they're blowing up here over the last few years, and so you're starting to see these companies that are just specifically looking at mountain, trail, and gravel shoes, and that's what Mountain to Coast focused on. I know they have some daily runners, but people that are focusing on this industry and they just blew up. Huge opportunity there for them. So you hyper focus in what this world can provide to you. There's people that are crazy enough to say, okay, let me try something new. Let me try something new. I know I'm that person. If I see a new shoe, I'm like, ooh, that looks nice and shiny. I might want to give that a go. I put that on my feet. I like it. They've got a new customer for life out of me.
Is it fair to say too that having these brands come on board will create some potential investment opportunities? When I left New Orleans, I wanted to run this 10K so bad.
Yeah.
Shout out, I think it was called Coastline 10K or
Was it
something like
going
that.
on while you're down there?
It was going on the last day as we were leaving. I had a window that I potentially could have run it if we went to jumped on a flight. But what I'm saying is Brooks was everywhere.
Mm.
Brooks, sponsored by Brooks. So as this happens, we could potentially see that investment potential from some of those big brands to this industry.
Yeah, I think it's right there. Like Brooks, so you bring it up, like they specifically have done a great job of getting my attention recently because they just had a new premium trail shoe come out, Brooks Cascadia Elites. Now, I've never put a Brooks shoe on in my life, but I saw those shoes and I'm like, I think those got to be mine. And I got a tag, but they don't have my size. But when that comes back in line, that's what we're going to be jumping on right there. So, have you seen those?
Your ability to say a shoe, and I want to say hundreds of shoes,
No,
and say it for exactly what it's called is actually really impressive.
I just get obsessed with shoes.
Yeah.
My wife's gonna listen to this and be like, "Yeah, I know. Yeah, he comes home, he's got shoes lined up in his office." I'm obsessed with shoes, but
There could be other worse obsessions out there than shoes.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, but I don't know. I mean, when you look at these market segments, I mean, when you look at them and we're talking shoes, we're talking gear, we're talking nutrition, we're talking all of these different things. Where do you think most opportunity lies?
It's hard to say, but I want nutrition stuck out to me, and here's why. Nutrition and supplements as a brand itself as a product itself is a $1 billion industry and growing all the time. We want to be able to do things faster, easier. We want to take shortcuts if we can, but mainly we want to have the things nutrition wise that we need to get through a race that normal human isn't supposed to run. And I look at nutrition as a big potential segment. I look at not only gels, but just the foods and the drinks and some of the carb heavy things that we could potentially be consuming. They're always going to get better. They're going to be tastier. They're going to probably really zoom in on what an ultra trail runner needs. And I think that industry could absolutely explode.
I think it's funny now that we're talking about that, how you see these sponsored elite athletes or sponsored, trail runners or influencers or whatever you want to call them that are sponsored by these nutrition companies that are pushing. Again, I might contradict myself on last week because we talked about carbs. We talked about carb loading a lot, but you see him talking about 40, 60, 80, 90 grams of carbs per hour. When you go on a race, we're pushing gels that are 30, 40 grams of carbs. So you're taking these. So the nutrition world, you're taking in lots of nutrition, lots of gels. And what happens when you're done with the race? You got to buy more. You got to buy more. So if they say that you got to increase your carb intake, and if you're saying that you need this gel for this and this gel for this, you need a sodium one, you need an electrolyte one, you need a caffeine one, you're taking 3 different ones. You need 3 different gels to purchase there at the end of the day too.
You need it during your training. You need to learn leading up. It's such a good point. It's a consumable. It goes away
very quickly.
Very quickly.
And you're buying more very quickly again too. And nutrition's another one that if you find something you like, you don't want to deviate away from it. So you got a customer for life yet again. And I look back and we talk about sports and science beta fuel. They're increasing the price on those. I'm unfortunately probably not going to shy away because I like the product so much. I know it doesn't mess with my stomach. Even they increase the price, I'm probably going to be running back to the door. So we talk about opportunity. You mentioned it. There's an opportunity there for anyone that I know you can go make your own gels and you can start putting stuff together. But again, another opportunity that sounds pretty nice for someone to jump in or some other company to say, here's some nutrition specifically for the trail world.
You bring up a great point too of the trail runner, the ultra runner as a customer. And we'll get into that a little bit more because that's, I think, fascinating how he describes who the customer is when it comes to trail running. Tell me more about your perspective on trail events though. So that is one of the market segments mentioned. It's to me, it's a relatively inexpensive fee to do what potentially could be an experience of a lifetime, but that is coming from a trail runner. But these events and how they're scheduled, their purse prizes are potentially going up based on what we talked about in the last episode. Is there room to grow that, and what will that look like in the future?
So when you say trail events, are we talking specifically more like grassroots rates or like those big highlight star races that everyone looking at?
I was initially thinking about the big races, but yeah.
I mean, I think that, you look at when we look at trail events and we look at, you know, like we've mentioned before, but you look at a Western States, you look at a Canyons, you look at Black Canyons, you look at UTMB, races that have a lot of eyes on those, right? Those races have tons of sponsors coming in. Like Hoka is sponsoring Western States, they're sponsoring Black Canyon. Then you look over and you go over to UTMB, and it's like you see every major brand out there. And so there's opportunity for these big we they have established footprint of having so many people watching them because of how they make their umbrella, right? They protect themselves. And so, we make these premier races, you know, difficult to get into. They're races that people want to chase their entire lifetime. They're lottery formats. You have to have qualifying races. So you have to run races that are associated with them. And so it's like this whole tiered event that like keeps you attached and keeps you connected. And so these big races, they have it figured out. Where I think that there's opportunity is that take like, a grassroots race or take a grassroots organization. And I think that a great example, and they're not even grassroots anymore, but like Air Viper Running, they're known for their Colorado, Arizona racing. They put on Copacabana, they put on, the Solstice, the 24-hour stuff. They have tons of races. They always have great things, but, they went out and they bought another race company out east. And so they're like, diversifying their pool, which I think is great. And they're keeping their interest of like having the common runner come in. They want accessibility for all runners. And so when I look at that, I'm like, there's probably opportunity for some of these other races, other race directors to maybe kind of model off of not a UTMB or not a Western States, but maybe like an Air Vipa where, they don't want to compromise in selling themselves out, selling their soul and like losing the intentions of like having good runners come to the race. but having runners be able to put in the spotlight. They're doing live streaming events. They're doing these live stream funded prize pools. Have you seen these? They're amazing. So what they're doing is like their live stream. So say Cocodona, for example, from the moment it starts, they'll put it on YouTube live stream. And there's a donate button at the very bottom. And it's not a donate to the race director or the race organization. It's a donate to the race prize pool. So anyone that's racing, even if you want to go throw $1 in there because you're enjoying the content or you like a runner in there or whatever it is, whoever wins that race wins they break the prize pool down percentage.
Didn't know.
It's brilliant.
That
And
is
so
so cool.
it again, it keeps a competitive edge in these races. And so like I look at like, maybe some races in the Midwest or maybe some races that have been struggling. It's like, maybe look for some organizations, some companies, some support to like maybe make your race feel a little bit more professional. Have some people come in that get excited about it. I think that that's some opportunity there.
You just got my head spinning and thinking about what does it take to create a race and to put on an event. We talk about Crow-Hassan shout out over in our backyard. Be a fun little race of some sort.
It would.
How do these things come to fruition?
So I know a lot of races have been established for a long time, and it's kind of a passing of the sword or passing of the flag, whatever we want to call it. And, you find someone that has volunteered a lot of their time, raced a lot of their time, spent a lot of time of helping out. And it's kind of here you go, take the race and keep the integrity of what it is and have people keep enjoying it. But now we're also seeing a lot of races start popping up. And I think that when we see these races pop up, there's kind of two dual intentions, people that want to profit from these things and people that just have a true love of the sport. But I think the people that have a true love of the sport have something good that's going on there. So if you're wanting to really truly start your race up, it's like, I think that find an area that you love to run at, right? Don't just look for somewhere that has open opportunity because they can have 100 people try and come run there and just throw something together. But it's like find somewhere you love to run at. And then also on top of it, I mean, then you got to go through your permitting, you got to go through all your different X, Y's, and Z's of the legal logistics of it and making sure that you're in code and having everything that comes in there. And then a lot of times you're not making a lot of money by doing these things. But that's where like I talk about Air Viper when you have 20, 30 races, you're buying another race organization out there, and like you have an established company where you can umbrella all of these races and know that you put on a good event. That's what I think that if someone becomes really good at one race and says, well, now I'm really good at one race, let me see if I can introduce a second race or another distance. And it's like, then having the trust of the people to continuously come back year in and year out, that's how I think that you develop a good race.
Is there a world where someone looks at something like the backyard, which they've created something just so huge, and it's because of the format of the race and the structure of the race and the uniqueness of the race, and say, we're going to create something kind of like that?
Well, you have variations of it. You have like Mid-State Mile in Tennessee, which is just a mile loop, but you're getting crazy elevation gain over there. You see some of these King of the Hills popping up over like in Australia, some on the East Coast where it's just huge elevation climbs. You see all these different variations, but I think what would be really interesting to see, and I heard rumblings of it. I think I mentioned in the past. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but like having a backyard ultra league and having a team specified per state, and then like having a qualifying race and having states compete. Wouldn't that be
Oh
kind of a
my
neat one?
gosh, that'd be fun. That's cool.
Be a very cool one.
Yeah. Okay, we definitely broke down events, and the last market segment that he touched on was media.
You tell me, what do you think?
I just want to be able to watch more races in real
Yeah.
time. I want them to be accessible. YouTube's totally fine if I got to go to YouTube. And also maybe more awareness and clarity about how to find them. So if YouTube's the place and that's where we're going to go, awesome. But I remember you talked to me about this new concept that I learned, which was following a dot on a radar.
Oh, dot tracking on track leaders. Yeah.
Dot tracking. While that's exciting,
Exhilarating.
exhilarating, I want to be able to watch them, and I want to know where I can go to watch them. And I think that is just a piece that media will have to figure out as we go. But I know that there's being steps to be made.
Yeah. And I also look at media also as what they're doing with, sponsored runners now and how the world of social media has ballooned up so crazily where, you're having these brands just reach out to elite runners, reaching out to everyday runners, reaching out to people like just like Andy Glaze, for example, like just someone that he's not an elite runner by any means, but he runs crazy, crazy weeks. He runs crazy races, and people are so very intrigued with them. And I think that, just seeing social media alone and how you can grow that, and like you're not having to put together these crazy advertisements, these big cinematic pieces. It's like just use someone, and people like watching someone that's just willing to like share and be raw. And like if I see someone that's like, oh wow, I like the guy's hat that he's running right there. Oh, what's that guy taking for his gels? It caught my interest. So I'm sure it's catching a lot of other people's interest out there at the same time too. And I think podcasting is another great way as and that's not why we're in this. We just love to talk. Me and you could just be the only listeners for this. We just listen to it still because we just love to talk.
100%.
But I mean, I love to just throw the headphones on and listen to other people just talk running. I will geek out and nerd out on running all day long because it's what I love to do. It's what I love to listen to. And so there's all these different formats out there where I'll just shuffle through different things and just throw it on. So, when I think media, it's like podcasting, social media, like you said, like the YouTube, the live streams. There's so many different variations of that network to get involved with at the same time.
100%. Yeah, that's a great breakdown. And I think the media could do themselves well by looking at some of the documentaries and some of the content that is on YouTube already and
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to emulate them and also add in the kind of the live piece
Yeah.
about a race, and they'll do just fine. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Oh, it's a good part. So we talk about why now.
Yeah.
Why why is why is now the time for concentration to be placed on trail running as a sport and not a niche? And you talked about the growth every year other than COVID since early 2000s. You talk about 40,000 first time finishers in last year, which tells you 40,000 out of the pie of 150 who signed up or whatever, or finishers total. That's a lot of new runners
Yeah.
that are coming to the sport every day. And I like that it breaks it down, and we'll talk about it in a little bit about more about the why. Running, oftentimes we'll say, and you'll hear in conversations, I'm a runner.
Mm.
Not always are you going to say, oh, I'm a basketball player. These are huge sports, don't get me wrong, but running is an identity, it seems, and a lifestyle.
Mm.
And you really get into that. But you also talked, you mentioned mental health awareness when we were talking in a previous
Yeah.
conversation.
I think that running provides, man, I got into running for mental health, to be honest with you, just for to have I would like I mentioned the very first time we talked on this podcast was I was in a really, really rough spot in my life with just addiction had taken over. I was really just battling, just not living a very healthy lifestyle and just I wasn't living very mentally clear. I was not ever mentally clear. And once I ran and I just continuously keep running, just that was my opportunity just to get out the door and have some peace and clarity, have some time in my life where I just didn't have to think. And I always tell people running is my moving meditation. And I think we've said that before, but it's my moving meditation. And people have a really hard time with that don't run because they're like, what do you mean? How are you meditating when you're? I'm like, it's not a state of Zen. I mean, it could be a state of Zen. It very well
Sometimes.
could be, but it's like at the same time, it's like this provides me an opportunity just to delete whatever I'm dealing with or whatever it is that's going on, and just take some time for myself, take some time for my body, take some time just to get out and move and just clear the head. And it doesn't matter if I'm moving fast, moving slow, as long as I'm outside and in nature and on the road or whatever it is, I'm having a good time out there and it provides me a really good mental reset. I know that you kind of think pretty similarly to that, right?
We are very, very
Mhm.
similar in that regard. I look to running to help me when my life wasn't very healthy, to pick a healthy hobby. And that hobby just kept growing beyond high school sports or college running. It became a time for me, for myself, to work on myself. Not to mention you feel great after, but I'll also say that during a run, I had some of the best ideas, and not ideas in the sense always that, oh, I'm good, this invention's really cool, or this idea for a business is really cool. I need to go call this person. I don't know why, but like running just, has this ability, especially when you run in some silence out in nature, to prompt you to do something. And that prompt kept coming up every time I would run in some way or another. And it's kind of hard to ignore when that happens.
And I think that the trail running community as a whole is so incredibly welcoming. And I think that this ties along with mental health really well because When I go to a race or if I go to an event or if I even just am running on the trails and I am like passing someone, it's always a hi, hello. But when I go to events and it's like if I'm running with another runner, like I have a great example. Like I was running in the middle of my 100-mile race last September. I passed this guy and we BS'd for about 5, 10 minutes and I went on my way. And no more than 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, here he comes again and he's passing me. And we BS for another 5, 10 minutes and he's gone his way. I had and didn't see him the rest of the race. Gone. Another 20 hours passed by and never see him. And the race gets done and over and he follows me on Strava right away and messages me and goes, "Hey, you had a great race out there. It's good to see you out there. Good seeing." Every time I see the guy since then, it's always, "Hey, how you doing? How are things going? You been well? You been doing good?" I met the guy on a trail during the race and chatted with him for 10 minutes, and now I can see him anytime. And he's like, it's like we've been friends for a lifetime. And I think that that's incredible to have when you're running and when you're sharing time with people. And it's like you're meeting like minded people that share good qualities, that share characteristics that you're trying to achieve. And when you embody and you share time with people that embody what you do, you're only enlightening your life. You're only providing yourself a better avenue to brighten yourself. And I think that that's what this community provides. So,
You said that really well, and you had me thinking from your story when I ran my K last year in Duluth, how many good conversations I had, and when it got hard that first day because I ran the half marathon the next day, which was a fun experience,
mm,
really fun. It went better than the first day, oddly enough. But when I started to cramp, I had 3 runners, and I was cramping bad. That were handing me salt tests. Do this, take this, and the ability to just rally around each other and see what all of us can do. It's not necessarily about beating a person. It's a personal goal, but then everyone's in it together.
yeah.
It's a it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful community to be in.
It really is. And I think that it provides reassurance of like, why are we doing this too? A lot of like selfishly, like you look at road stuff and like we said, we'll talk about road, we'll talk about all that, but you're not able to have those conversations in road and like you're racing to be as fast as possible and you're racing against other people outside of there. And don't get me wrong, and trail stuff can be fast and you're trying to run fast, but at the same time, it's like you're out there with a lot of people that are just trying to maybe chase some stuff to live a better, healthier, cleaner mental life, physical life. And, you know, why drag someone down or why take an extra 5 seconds out of your day to just run by them and not say anything? So I love the trail for that reason.
Yeah, and one of my favorite thoughts or one of my favorite runners actually is Max Scholoff,
Oh, yeah.
and he celebrated 14 years of sobriety recently. And I just think about where he was in his life when he found running and what running has given him and what he's given back to running. And I just look up to someone like that. That is just that's a story of resilience, and it's a story of overcoming things you never thought you could overcome. And running was his tool. And I hear that story pretty often, running being a tool or a way to help get through some really, really hard things.
Love it because, like we said, there's 150,000 finishers this past year, which means there's 150,000 stories out there that we're missing out on. And when we
Mm,
just pass these people, we never get to know them. But if you take 5 seconds out of your day, or just ask an aid station, or asking a person you're volunteering with of just how's their running going, you're probably going to get a fun story that you weren't expecting.
that's so cool. For our listeners, if you have any interest in sharing in the comments, like why you run, what are you running for? Um, I always find it interesting that oftentimes people who don't maybe understand say, "Oh, they're running from something." It's not really like that. It's more like, what are we running for?
Yeah,
And there have been very few times when I felt like I was running from something when I'm running. It's more I'm running to do something or to accomplish something, even if that is a state of mind of peace while I'm doing it. And so that's really interesting.
I love that. I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. He talks about, so we kind of went off on this participation boom, some cultural tailwinds when we touched on mental health awareness. Number 3, he talks about media growth, the podcasts, the YouTube, Substacks, Western States Live Broadcasting. He talks about some capital flow. So Bandit Running raising 14 million. Zegna invested in Norda. What does this mean when we see some of these kind of larger dollar amounts within the sport? For me, it tells me that obviously there's an attempt or there's interest in growing the sport.
I mentioned Norda earlier. That's a great example. It's that, you see Norda specifying in the trail world, and then people are getting eyes on it that they're growing. And that when you're growing, look at Shark Tank, for example. You need someone to help you push some money into there. And that's how I look at this
One of the
portion of the
best shows
segments,
ever.
right? It's like you have people that know as there is an area of opportunity, and people are jumping in and saying, "Hey, well, let me help push this so you can grow it, expand it." And it's like it's like how business world. It's like we're in business 101. You need money to push money to make yourself grow. And if you don't have it, you got to find someone that does have it. And that's what's happening here. But you're seeing these people that are willing to stick their necks out and say, "Hey, there's opportunity. Let me start building this." And then as they start to, make themselves known, that's where people are jumping in here.
Yeah. Yeah. You touched on not only the capital flow, but the brand opportunity. I want to talk a little bit about the customer.
I think this is a fun one.
It's, I think there's a difference between a trail runner and other customers out there inside of that big bubble that maybe shared outdoor sports as a whole. And why is that? Why is the trail runner maybe a different type of customer?
Well, I think it almost goes back to what I talked about earlier is like community, for example. I mean, I think that, well, trail running, I mean, it's probably a pretty expensive sport to get into. I mean, if you look at trail running as a whole, a lot of the times you're not going to just be jumping in your car and just driving 10, 15 minutes to a start line. You're having to get up in the mountains, you're having to get to a pretty remote area. When we're talking 100-mile races, you have to find a pretty good stretch of land or open area that you're not going to have a lot of cross, contamination with other events or roads or whatever it is going on there. And so there is a lot of financial commitment into being a trail, into being an ultra runner, right? Because you have race entries, they're not cheap. Race entries for these big races can be 300 to on the low end to upper $1,000 on the high end. Very good. Some of these races can be very expensive. Yeah.
Okay.
But then you have your travel, you have your stay, you have your crew, you have your logistics, you have gas and fuel, all of your food that you have to have go along with this. And so there's a lot of financial commitment. And so going back to what you asked is that the trail runner probably has some cushion to do this sport pretty nicely, right? So
Seth breaks down to it, which is really, really interesting. Just trail runners in general.
mm,
I'm going to lose it now.
mhm.
60% of trail runners in the study or the research they did make over K a year. 25% earn more than 200K and 7% more than 300K, which leads towards number one, you got to have some financial ability to probably do this sport, but also if for someone who's interested, for the investors or the sharks who are interested in trail running, there's a lot of opportunity with that type of customer makeup.
I think so. So I mean, what do you think? Why all of a sudden is this customer, or what's retaining them, or what keeps them bringing back, or why are they so willing to spend their money on quote unquote a hobby?
I think it's such an infused like identity of the person that they are um probably viewing running as something bigger than a sport
Yeah,
sometimes even. And I think that creates a ton of loyalty. It creates also, because maybe the industry hasn't caught up, it creates a lot of opportunity for research. Well, I'm going to try this brand. Okay, that brand didn't necessarily work, or this type of nutrition or whatever. So now I'm going to go try this one. But once they find it, especially what you mentioned about your brand of electrolytes, once you find it, you stay very loyal
yeah.
and you tell other runners. I mean, the moment we were running together, you're like, tastes so good. And I'm sitting there on that sloshy chocolate, whatever gel that I had. And I'm like, I want that.
That's a really good point. Is that these people like that are loyal to brands are probably their biggest advertising agent out there, that these brands already know about it, because a trail runner, once they find something they like, they'll let everyone know they like it, right? Whether it be shoes, gear, gel, whatever it is, you let everyone know. And plus, they're making a lot of this trail running gear nice and flashy that catches your eye, where you're like, "Ooh, that looks nice and pretty."
Guilty admission.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, we talked about Max Jolliffe.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, probably one of the coolest runners out there.
Oh yeah.
You can't you can't replicate his aura, but he makes me want to look at cool running gear. Like, I'm researching cool shirts and cool hats and cool running gear. I haven't bought any of them yet, but it's because he he wears this, he does well, he's got a great story. I want what he has type
Well,
of thing.
once you figure out who he's sponsored by, the price tag might scare you.
I know. What is it?
Satisfy Running.
Satisfy.
Well, they're interesting because we're on this conversation about opportunities and markets and brands and stuff. And Satisfy saw an opportunity in the trail world where it's like, let me provide this ultra niche product that is a upscaled product that looks freaking badass and like is cool and has like good technology in it. And we're gonna charge a good price for this. And it's had really good traction because they go out and they've had people like Max Jolliffe and they've had people that have represented this brand that have eyes on them. And then we're talking about it. So their advertising worked because it has us talking about it. And so it's really cool how these brands go about stuff and what's out there. And it goes, you were talking a minute ago and it had me laughing because I said hobby and then you were talking, well, maybe it's just a way of life. And I saw this meme or reel or whatever it was, but it said, why do I treat my hobby like my real job? And then I treat my real job like my hobby. And I was like, wow, I've never related with something more than that because a lot of these people probably have the same mindset and mentality. It's like, well, every dollar I'm making, I'm probably going to make sure that I'm well taken care of and my finances, my mortgage, and everything's paid for. But what's left over is for my running right there.
I tell everyone too, it's like I'm working on the one word that I work on a lot is consistency,
Mm.
showing up. I sometimes have a problem showing up in other parts of my life. I rarely have a problem showing up when I'm running. It's just one of those outlets that just it gives me just as much as I give it. And that's probably why that customer is such a strong customer base.
I agree.
Um, and I don't know if these other sports, if you're a basketballer, if you play rugby or whatever you do you do it every day? I mean, I want to run every day, and if I'm if I'm not, it's probably pretty intentional. But if I had my choice, I would run every single day, and I'm thinking about running when I'm not running, and so maybe it's the same, but it feels all encompassing with trail running in particular.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting question though too. Why do they get this evangelist kind of tag on them? They're trying to evangelize running, it almost seems. Is it because the sport or the industry is still growing and people don't quite understand it? But they'll take something and they'll try to grow it. They'll try to talk to people, they'll try to get people to run with them. Whereas some other types maybe just they buy into what they're doing and they just kind of do it. They call oftentimes they label ultra runners or trail runners as evangelists of the
Mm.
sport. Does that make sense?
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's do they have something to prove because of
Mm.
some of the questions that you're never going to question someone if, and I'm picking on
Mm.
basketball. Love the sport of basketball, by the way. Go to you, but why do you play basketball? Like, can you imagine if you were a baller and you just loved your sport and everyone's like, why do you play? Like, isn't it kind of hard to run up and down the court? You got to buy those really expensive basketball shoes. You get that a lot in running, more often than you would think.
Yeah, it almost goes back to like you asked everyone, what was your why for running or what is your reasoning for running? And I think that that is such it could be a hyper specific answer to every single person that's listening, and every answer is going to be different out there. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question.
I also thought too that there's something to be said, and I don't know necessarily this goes with the evangelist piece, but there's something to be said about the suffering that an ultra trail runner
Mm.
endures, how difficult it is if you don't do it or if you've never done it before. And even for a runner myself, I'm just scratching the surface of trail running. I'm probably where you were. I don't even know how many years ago, maybe 5 years ago now or more. And the suffering is unlike any other that I've experienced, but it's something that when you're done, you really get to celebrate with the people that you did it alongside of.
So I will share this, and I don't share a lot of my running mantras and stuff that I go through, but I have one that I use pretty frequently, and we've shared. And I have a lot of addiction in my past. I was an alcoholic for a long time, and so I've been 7 years clean and sober now. But something that I write down and I reference a lot is the pain that I'm current. Well, this is when I'm running, and I say that the pain that I'm currently feeling is well, the pain that I had during addiction is nothing compared to the pain that I feel now. So meaning that the pain that I feel now will always supersede and transcend the pain that I felt when I was enduring addiction. And so that provides me an opportunity to sit back and reflect on what I'm doing might suck. What I'm doing might be the worst suffering pain that I've been through. What I might be doing might be so mentally difficult or hard for that given moment. But I can sit there and say, at least I'm not living the life that I lived in misery for so long. And I'm not saying that that's relative to every person out there because every person that's running does not have an addiction background. But there's probably something in your life that you can relate that to, that right now that this opportunity might suck and you might be suffering so much, but you are so grateful for that opportunity that you're placed in, and try and find some positive light. And it'll probably pull you out of that mental state or that physical state that you're in right there. And people have worked so hard to get to that opportunity that why let those thoughts creep in, and find some way to harness them and push them out.
I love it. I don't even know that I have anything to say about that. I just let that one sit. But that suffering is real. We can always come back for more. And
I think that's the funniest thing that we've just said. We always come back for more because you hear so many times that people will run 100-mile races and they'll be just like everything took them to get to that finish line. And as soon as they're done, their legs collapse, they fall apart, and they're like hobbling, holding people up. And they get in the car and they're like, all right, when are we going to do this again? When are we going to do this again?
I was the opposite. When I got done with my 50K and then the 10K, no, it was a half marathon. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. But then, very shortly after,
Give it a
I'm like,
week, give it a
"What?
couple days.
I got to do this again."
I gotta give I gotta give Drake here one more because he's probably never gonna text me about anything running again here. But while we're talking about this, he texted me today and he just goes, "All right, I'm scared." And I'm like, because he's running a 100-mile race in 4 days from now. And it's starting to sink in the magnitude of what he's getting ready to go through because he's done it before. He's ran it before. He's ran this race before. And now he's sitting here and he's like, I'm getting ready to put myself through that all over again in 4 days from now. And it's not a sense of like, I'm scared to do this. It's more of maybe like a sense of like, I know what's coming and I'm not sure if I'm mentally ready for it, but I got to start just strapping it in right now. Fun one.
What's worse, going into it knowing exactly what it takes, or going in fresh, being nervous of the unknown for sure, but not necessarily knowing how much you're going to suffer? Man, that is good stuff. Well, Drake's going to crush it. And he sounds like a dude that'd be really fun to run with based on the previous conversations that we've had. And, shout out to him. That's awesome.
You said run, you meant power hike, but all right. That was fun though, man. I mean, is there any other questions in there? If not, I mean, what do you think about this whole thing? What are you thinking about it?
I just think that the opportunity is so cool, and timing is everything. And the time is now
Yeah.
for trail race. And I think to be talking about it as it's kind of evolving, and to go through some of these storylines and to read some of these articles and kind of see a place in the future where this sport is going is really, really exciting. I think Seth's points are incredibly valid. I think that this could grow into something that is consumable for someone
Mm.
maybe outside of the sport, so they can at least say, what's this about?
Yeah.
Like, let me figure out what it's about, and can elevate the people who are already here and running, and elevate their lives in certain ways, but mainly can just put another unique lens on running, and running on a trail in hard environments, up elevation, and how exciting that could be. And so I think it's really, really exciting.
I could not agree more with that. And I don't think I have anything additional to add because you summed it up so very well. And I think that it's just let people see what the beauty of trail running is. It's so fun, man. It's a beautiful sport. There's great people, great races. It's a great thing to do. So if you're not there, if you're not involved, if you're scared, if you're timid, or for whatever it is, just do it. Just do it.
I'll say too, just make a break in your training if you have run on the road, and just try a trail once in a while. There's always going to be trails by you. I love all trails because it'll tell you exactly what's by you, and you can find out. Switch it up and see if you like it. I think that it's a unique environment, and it's incredibly engaging. So
100%.
yeah,
Well, Seth, thank you for an awesome article, man.
For real.
This was great. We saw this and we're like, we have to talk about this because it was a lot of fun. So I know we mentioned it in the beginning, but if you want to check this one out, just go on Google, go to Trail Wave Substack. Seth
Yes.
Lareau, it's one of his articles on there. He does a great listen as well too on this one. But
Yeah.
yeah, it really fun to talk about. So with that being said, I think we should kind of jump into the rundown and
The rundown.
talk about some relevant running news that happened here over the past week. We talked about dot tracking, and I was dot tracking because the Arizona Monster happened, or Arizona Monster 300, I should say, happened.
300 miles.
300 miles, longest trail race there is out there currently right now. And it was a spicy one. Did you follow any of it?
I followed what I have from you. So I want you to tell our listeners what kind of transpired, but also it's not only 300, it's probably comes from those 300 miles. That's a lot of time on feet and a lot of miles, but the elevation is no joke too.
No, like I think they're doing over 40,000 feet of gain roughly, but it's no joke of a race. And a lot of that gain you're getting in the first 100 miles. So you're going through a lot the first third of the race, but
And the heat.
the heat was insane. And I'm having a hard time comprehending how hot it was because we're up here and we're still currently having snow in Minnesota right now. But I was seeing, because I was following a few runners during it, but 100-degree, 105-degree heat index at the start of the race. And when you're talking a 300-mile race, you're having 20 to 26-mile sections and you're having to carry all your water. And with it's that hot, people were dropping out of the race 40 miles into a 300-mile race.
Heard there was tons of people that dropped incredibly early.
Very early. People were getting terribly dehydrated. And I even heard that there was one gal that got so dehydrated, they had to medevac her out of there. And so a lot of intense stuff, but for those that were able to brave through that first day and first 100 miles, I think that the finishing rate, there was only 6 additional people that DNF'd after the third day. So really low dropping rate after they got through that first third of the section. But I think we got to give credit where credit's due, because if you follow ultra racing, you've probably heard of Mike McKnight, and he took it down, set a new course record, and will be the standing course record because they're changing the course next year. They will not run that again, but he went out there and I think beat it by 4 hours and some change.
Yeah, it was a big time that he beat it by. I always find it interesting too when I get to do some research on some of these runners I'm just getting to know now. Michael McKnight, he wasn't even supposed to walk again, right? He got into a ski accident, I think in 2010 or something like that, broke his back or something with his spine. Guy wasn't even supposed to walk again, and he's an elite ultra.
Deals with a lot of he dealt with really bad injury stuff, and then continuously throughout his running career, last year he had to take almost a full year off just because that back stuff had flared up on him again. And so
really,
yeah, he dealt with it, but he's known as the king of 200s, man.
Mm-hmm.
He just dominates that world, and he's going after the Triple Crown this year, which is going to be Tahoe, Bigfoot, and Moab, and he's going to try and set the course record on the three, because those 3 races combined total time.
I mean, that's legendary stuff.
He's
right?
gonna run Cocodona too, and so he's running Monster 300, Cocodona 250, Tahoe 200, Bigfoot 200, and Moab 240. 5 200-plus mile races in a calendar year.
We're talking about taking a week off and how hard it is mentally. This guy takes almost a year off to recover, to take care of his body, or whatever the case was. He comes back and he's just got plans, just got some serious goals.
Just dialed, an absolute dialed. So it was a great race to follow. After that had dropped off and the race was kind of dying down. But they're another one that's great live stream as well too. But side note, but they are actually adding an additional distance next year. So they're going to maintain the 300. It's going to be on a new course, but they're actually adding in a 100-mile distance as well too. So people can get out there and experience the course, experience the camaraderie of what a 300-mile race looks like. And so maybe if you're curious or hyper curious of getting into that longer distance stuff, that just 100 miles is still long. We're kind of mitigating the distance there, but try it out, see what the course is like.
Yeah, so wild to talk about a 100-miler against a 300-miler. Still crazy, both of them. Did they have to do anything and make any judgment calls during that race because of the heat? I mean, what are you doing as a race director going oh, man, but it had to have been that hot in previous years, right?
So it's been hot that previous years, and the race director's name's Candace. She owns Destination Trail and has the 4 races, and it's pretty comical because at the start of every race, she says that I need everyone to recite the promises of the race. And she
I
goes,
saw this.
if I get lost, if I whatever, if I die, it's my own damn fault. And she makes everyone say that because you know what you're signing up for and you know what you're getting yourself into. You know what the conditions might be. You just better be well equipped. But that's why they put these guaranteed, required gear listings out there, making sure you have the required water. But how you use them is up to you. And if you don't
Mm,
use them properly, you're gonna be hurting. So
man.
kind of a fun one. So, but while we're talking long distance stuff, Cocodona 250 has not happened yet, but had some really interesting news come out of it that happened just before the race. Did you hear anything about it?
Yeah, so if I have this right, changing or creating some type of gender balance model and a model just in general for how they accept their runners into the
Yeah,
race.
just basically a new lottery format. And at first, I was trying to understand this, and I've come to really appreciate what they're doing because in the past, this race has become so popular, so popular. And
Why is it so popular?
because they put on a great race. It's a great area. It's a point to point 200-mile race. Air Viper Running does a phenomenal job. Live streams. I mean, the list goes on. Everything that we just talked about of like the why of trail running, Air Vipa has encompassed and made Cocodona like their premier highlight race. And it has elite people coming to this. Like this is going to be an elite fast race, which is crazy to say for a 250-mile race, but it's going to be fast. When we look at this new lottery breakdown, this new lottery format, I think it's great because in the past they've been the time, the second, the minute that or the registration comes open, they crash the website because there's so many people that do that. And like, you're just gambling on who can click enter the fastest. And it's like, is that the right way to go about a race?
Mm,
Is that the right way to have people come in there just like who can sit up and who can hit enter and send the fastest? And then when someone that has maybe put time, commitment, volunteer hours, spent their time like dedicating themselves to the race doesn't get in, and now the race director's having to like maybe make special selections, and then you're going to make someone upset with your selections, and so they're just like, we have to get rid of this format and figure out something that works. And by them doing that, they said, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to have our female participant increase, have that number increase. So they made a gender specific lottery format. Did you see that?
yeah, and you make really good points. I didn't realize that you just kind of had to click and pray,
Yeah, who was
really.
fastest?
Now, to break down, so what does that mean when they say gender specific? Like, how does that look?
So typically, from what I understand, the female presence in these races are typically like 70 to 30, right?
Okay.
70 to 30. So they're going to balance the scale is going to be weighted based on how many entrants they have, right? Because they can take a total of, let's say 300 runners for easy math. And so say that they have 1,000 males that sign up and say they have 500 females that sign up. It's not going to be a complete 50-50 split, but they're going to weight that to where they can get as close to 50-50 as they can, right? And so it's just trying to have a better equality within trail running and having just a great female presence, which I think it's a great thing to have,
Oh,
right? I think it's
100%.
great because we're a male dominated sport, right? And so if we can have some of those people come out there and share that, more power to it.
Do you think other races will follow this model?
Potentially. I look at other lottery races out there. When I think about them, I think of Western states. I think of one that's close to home, Superior. I think that people will watch what happens closely with Cocodona since they're the first to do it. Do I think that a lot of people are going to just jump on the bandwagon and say, let's do exactly what they're doing, let's try it out? I necessarily don't think so. But I think that if this has good success and it has a good track record, we'll probably see it in the future.
Mm, good call. Makes a
Prob
ton of sense. I think it's great. I don't think, depending on how they manage it and everything that, like that, I think it could be great for the sport in general.
Now we're gonna jump to the road after we just talked about trail for so very long, and
Just one little
I
piece.
don't have a ton on this one, but I think that it was important to mention because Connor Mance is the known USA men's marathon runner. I mean,
Hmm.
if you know marathon, I mean, even if you don't know marathon, you've probably heard the name once or twice before, but he is the dude, and he pulled himself out of Boston Marathon, which is the biggest highlighted eyes on race in the United States. Everyone's watching it. They put it on the main channels for people to watch, and he pulled himself out, said, Didn't feel like he was right. Didn't feel like he was well equipped. Didn't think his
Something
training,
lingering from the Chicago.
from what I
He put up
understand,
a great, record time in Chicago, and
and
is
probably just had some nagging little injury, tear, pain, whatever it was, and just hasn't been able to get his training and fitness where he wanted to. And when you're that high of an elite, you don't want to put yourself out there if you're not 100%, right? And I respect that, right? At the same time, so I kind of pose the question of, is anyone going to step up on the men's side, or are we just not even going to see anyone come
yeah.
cruising
I
in
mean, I
there?
think about so Clayton Young
Okay, yep.
runs with him.
Hmm.
Has had a couple of strong finishes.
Hmm.
Seems like he could be a strong runner. Can he be Connor Mance type runner? I don't know,
Be
because we
interesting.
haven't really seen it from him yet. But it will be interesting, and there's a storyline there of who will step up. If not Connor, then who will step up?
I think that's what we'll see of it. So
Yeah,
I'll watch it. I mean, I'll track it and see if anyone does step up. Who knows?
yeah. Well, man, I think that's all for this evening. Number one, appreciate the dialogue that we had at the
Yeah.
beginning. Number two, go check out Seth's article if you have any amount of time. He reads it to you if you want, and we'll try to too. I think one thing I can take on is continuing to educate some of our listeners on how to consume some of the things we talked about. So
Yeah.
live streams, I know that you know your way around that. I'm still figuring it out. Would be kind of cool to put out some shorts or put out some things on, hey, check this out. This is how you watch,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
I think that we've been trying to maybe get our footings in with the podcast and just like really getting a good grounded root here. And then maybe developing a really good social base out there. And we've started to put ourselves on a few different platforms, on Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and on TikTok, and
Follow.
on All Under the Threshold podcast. And but it's been more of just like, let's just get a feel for how we're doing. And then as we're progressing, it's like, let's make this be like some news outlet that people could have there, to where if they did want to track something or follow something, we'll provide that for them to look, because we're tracking it at the same time too. So why not share it for others to have visibility on?
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, like, subscribe, follow, ask any questions that you want, and also put some comments in there if you have a running purpose that you're really, really proud of, or these you just want to share. I think that's all for tonight. So as always, run for someone who can't today, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.